Thank you all for coming. Go ahead and be seated. Thanks for coming. Thanks for the warm welcome. Thanks for greeting me and Senator McCain. He's up here to claim some water, he said. Yeah, never mind. Just an inside joke that didn't work. But we appreciate you coming today. We're going to have a serious dialogue on Social Security. It's an issue that requires a lot of dialogue and a lot of discussion. And so I want to thank our panelists for joining us. I want to thank you all for your interest in this subject. Before I begin, I do want to thank Governor Bill Owens and Francis for joining us today. Good to see you all. Congressman Bob Beaupre is with us. Good to see you, Congressman. Thank you, sir. Congressman Joel Heffley from down the road is with us. Lieutenant Governor Jane Norton is with us. Thanks for coming. The Attorney General of the great state of Colorado is with us. Thanks for coming. General Suthers, Mark Hillman is with us. Joe Stengel's with us. A lot of people are with us. We appreciate you being here. I hope you've been as impressed by the spread of freedom as I've been. We believe in America that freedom is not America's gift to the world, but it's the Almighty's gift to every person in the world. That's what we believe. And we shouldn't be surprised. I know some of us were surprised, but we shouldn't be surprised when people are willing to take risk for freedom. If you believe that freedom is etched in every person's soul, then you understand why in Afghanistan, for example, millions of people, after having been freed from the Taliban, were willing to go to the polls. We're willing to say, we're free, and we want to exercise our right. Same thing happened in Ukraine. The same thing happened in the Palestinian territories when they voted for President Abbas. I believe he's committed to democracy. I believe the March of Freedom will extend to the Palestinian territories so that our friend Israel will have a partner in peace, a true democracy in the Palestinian country. John recently went to Iraq. He was telling me what an amazing place Iraq now is. How many times have you been there? 2 or 3 times? Twice? Things have changed, and things changed not because necessarily our decisions. Things changed because of courageous Iraqis that were willing to go to the polls in the face of incredible threat. But they wouldn't be denied because people do want to be free, and it's important for the youngsters here to understand that the March of Freedom will yield peace. The peace we want. Free societies are peaceful societies. Free societies are hopeful societies. Free societies are the best way to defeat the dark vision of the terrorists. And so for the next 4 years, I look forward to working with friends and allies to continue the March of Freedom for the sake of peace. I appreciate the fact that the unemployment rate here in Colorado is 4.9%. The entrepreneurial environment here is strong, and that is good. We've got to keep policies in place to make sure our economy grows. I'm concerned, I know you're concerned about the price of gasoline. You're beginning to see the fact that we haven't had an energy policy in the United States at the pump. I know we need to encourage conservation. I know we need to find alternative sources of energy. I hope someday we can use biodiesel to make us less dependent on foreign sources of energy. I know we need to use our technological capacities not only to protect the environment, but to make us less dependent on foreign sources of energy. I know we need to modernize our electricity grid. In other words, Congress needs to stop debating the energy bill. I know what we don't need with the price of energy the way it is. I know we don't need tax breaks for oil companies. What we need is an energy plan. In order to make sure this economy continues to grow, Congress needs to pass the bill. But today we're going to talk about Social Security. It's an issue that some are saying, why would you want to talk about Social Security? It's a tough political issue. I believe, John believes, people here believe that now is the time to confront a problem, not to pass it on to future presidents and future Congresses. I mean, if you see a problem, I believe it is incumbent upon a leader to confront that problem. And let me tell you what I think the problem is. The problem is Social Security has changed since the day that Franklin Roosevelt first thought of it. It's changed because a lot of baby boomers like me are getting ready to retire. And we're living longer. And we've been promised more benefits. But fewer people are paying into the system. We're having less kids. 1950, 16 workers were paying for every beneficiary. Today, 3.3 workers are paying for every beneficiary. When younger people start getting ready to retire, it's going to be 2 workers paying for every beneficiary. Fewer people paying for more baby boomers like me who are living longer and have been promised greater benefits. What's changed is the math. What hadn't changed is the importance of having a good retirement system. Franklin Roosevelt ought to be applauded for putting a safety net in place for our seniors. This president and the Congress, many in the Congress understand that safety net's got a hole in it. And we're here to talk about how to mend the hole. You see, when you see a problem, I think it's necessary to confront the problem. Because there's fewer workers paying into the system, the Social Security system will go into the red in 2018. That means more money will be going out than coming in. Now, you probably think, some of you may think there's what they call a Social Security trust. The government collects the money for you, we hold it for you, and when you retire, we pay it to you. But that's not how it works. You pay your payroll tax, we pay for the people who've retired, and if there's any money left over, we spend it on government. That's how it works. And what's left is an empty IOU, piece of paper. Because it's a pay-as-you-go system, when more retirees start retiring who are living longer, getting paid more money starts going out than coming in. In 2027, that deficit will be $200 billion and growing greater every year. From 2018 to 2042, the deficits increase every year. The amount of money going out relative to the money coming in. And that's the problem. We're fine. I'm going to say it once, I'm going to say it as many times as I can. Seniors here in this audience and listening on TV must understand nothing changes. You're going to get your check. When you hear us talking about Social Security, you must understand that nothing will change for you. For those of us born prior to 1950, the system will not change. The fundamental question is, how are we going to do about the next generation coming up? Are we going to saddle them with a huge deficit in Social Security? Now, that's why I went to the Congress during the State of the Union and said, we've got a problem. I spent a lot of time describing the problem, but I also said, I'm willing to listen to any solution. I'm willing to say, you got an idea, bring it forward. Matter of fact, I think I might have been the first president ever to say, here are some ideas for you. Oops. First president. No, forget the best part. First president. Forget it. Just because you got a cowboy hat doesn't mean you can stand up and yell. Thank you. I said, put all ideas on the table. It doesn't matter if it's a Democrat idea or Republican idea. I'm interested in solving the problem. And I'm interested in solving it permanently. We don't need a temporary fix. Earlier today in Arizona, we were talking about the fact that in 1983, President Reagan and Tip O'Neill and Bob Dole and others stood up and said, there is a problem. Let's come together. And it was the spirit, was an important spirit. But they said it was a 75-year fix at the time. Because the math has changed, baby boomers like me getting ready to retire, living longer, getting bigger benefits, because that changed, we're now talking about the issue 22 years later. It wasn't 75 years. It was substantially less than 75 years. So you may hear some of them say, well, we've got a 75-year fix for you. In my judgment, that's not good enough. Now is the time to come together to fix this problem for generations to come permanently. I've got an idea that I think ought to be considered. You've heard a lot about it. It's called personal savings accounts. It wasn't my idea. As a matter of fact, this is an idea that's a part of 401ks, for example. You get to set aside some of your own money. You manage it in a conservative mix of bonds and stocks. It wasn't my idea. As a matter of fact, the federal government thought of this a long time before I did. And that is, federal workers ought to be allowed to take some of their own money and set it aside in a federal thrift savings plan where you can invest it in a series of bonds and stocks. And the reason why people thought that was a good idea is because they understand that you can get a better rate of return on a conservative mix of bonds and stocks than you can if your money's held by the federal government. And that rate of return is important for the individual worker because over time that grows. It grows, it compounds. It's called the compounding effect of interest. Now, let me give you an example. If you were to allow a worker that made $35,000 over his or her lifetime to take a third of their payroll taxes and put it in a personal savings account and invest it in a conservative mix of bonds and stocks, by the time that person retired, that money would have grown to be $250,000. In other words, that's how interest grows. That's how money compounds over time. Now, when it comes time to fixing the Social Security system, you got to understand the government can't keep the promises it made to young workers. And so one way to allow young workers to get a better deal from a permanent fix in the Social Security system is to let them take some of their own money and watch their own money grow, to be a part of a retirement system. In other words, you're going to get a check from the Social Security system. We can't tell you how much yet. But you know you can get a check plus your own asset base if you allow people to have a personal savings account. Secondly, I think it's important for a society to encourage ownership. I love the idea that more people are owning a home than ever before in our society today. If I forget something, fill in behind me on these things. I like it when I hear somebody say, I own my own business. The entrepreneurial spirit is strong in Colorado. We got more people owning their own business. I think it makes sense to encourage people to manage their own asset base through the Social Security account. I like the idea of people opening up their quarterly statement saying, well, here's what my worth is. Watching something grow. Certainly make people more interested in the fiscal decisions of the federal government when they watch their own assets. I like the idea of saying that you can have your own asset and you can pass it on to whomever you want. I don't think the system is fair for a couple who are working all their lives and the husband dies early and the wife has got either survivor benefits or her own Social Security benefits, whichever is higher, but not both. Think about that kind of system. Both of them worked their life. We met a woman today whose husband died at 55. He had worked, 30 years of his life, put money in the Social Security system. Upon his death, she got no benefits because she wasn't 62. They did pay $255 of burial benefits. He worked all his life. The wife gets $255 out of it. She retires at 62, gets a bigger check than the survivor benefits, and so the husband's contributions into Social Security have just gone away. That's not a fair system. A fair system said that this younger worker at the time when he was younger should be allowed upon his choice. This is a voluntary program, by the way. The government's not making you set aside money. You can do it if you want. Should be allowed to set aside some of his money in this case. It grows upon death. The money goes to the wife. That's fair. It's an asset. A couple of points I want to make, and then we're going to turn to the panel. Laura told me don't talk too much. She's obviously failed. By the way, she's doing great. Fabulous woman. People say, what does this mean, investing? Well, you can't put it in the lottery. In other words, there's a prescribed investment portfolio, just like the federal employees do. There's a conservative mix that'll get you a better rate of return than what your money is getting at in the federal government. Secondly, when you retire, you can't pull all your money out. In other words, it's there to help you retire. The capital stays in place and you live off the interest plus whatever the Social Security system can afford. But thirdly, you can leave it to whomever you want, and your heir can liquidate your personal account. That would help the widow, for example, or a child getting ready to go to college if the mom or dad dies. In other words, this is a way to not only encourage ownership, but it's a way to encourage asset formation for the families of America. We want more people from all walks of life being able to say, this is my asset, and I choose to leave it to my son or daughter. Lee Abner's with us. Every panel has got to have an expert. In this case, we got a lot of experts except for me and McCain. The best senator. Lee, tell us what you do.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Lee Abner, as he said, and I'm from Boulder, Colorado.
I know some people from Boulder.
I have been studying the Social Security system for 10 years now and talking about it for some time. And I'm here to say that you are exactly right. We have a huge problem ahead of us. It's not a new idea. People have known about the problem coming for some time. President Clinton even did a series of town halls like you're doing now, going around the country talking about the problem and some of the options on the table. The reason the problem's coming, and you talked a little bit about this, is that it's because of the way our system was designed. Fundamentally, it has a flaw in that the taxes come into Washington and they go straight out the door, a little bit like a water flowing through a sieve. And the money goes, of course, to pay today's beneficiaries, and anything that's left over, as you said, is spent by the government. In its place, the IOUs are put in the Social Security Trust Fund, as you mentioned. That works well as long as you have a lot of workers paying in, but unfortunately we don't anymore. So the problem is ahead of us, and it's severe. If a Social Security Administration study said that if we do nothing, the poverty rate of elderly in our country will double, and that's a terrible statistic. Second, if Congress chooses to raise payroll taxes to fix this shortfall in the future, as they've done many times in the past, and in my opinion, the longer we wait on this problem, the more likely it is that that's what'll happen. But if that were the course that Congress chooses to take, payroll taxes would have to go from their current level of 12% up to over 18%, which is a huge burden on younger people and on our workers, other workers and employers. And lastly, I'd like to say that I served on your commission in 2001. There was a commission developed in which 16 of us served. There were 8 Republicans and 8 Democrats. It was co-chaired by Senator Moynihan. And we spent 7 months looking at this problem, discussing what would be the alternatives and then making recommendations. And frankly, we all unanimously agreed, Democrats and Republicans together, that it's the only way to save for the future, because we can't save money now. As I said earlier, the only way to save it for the future is if workers have an option to put part of their money into a personal account. And that's, for the next 13 years, we're going to have extra money coming in. Maybe instead of government spending it, that should be the better option.
Yeah, one of the interesting things, Lee, I thought it was interesting to watch this commission work. Unlike some parts of Washington, this commission actually said, we're not here to promote a political party, we're here to help solve a major problem. And it's that spirit. Senator Moynihan did a fabulous job, by the way, of leading this commission. God rest his soul. But he said, look, we're not here to, to promote any individual person or candidate or party. We're here to do our duty as Americans. It is the spirit of this commission. In other words, people can sit at the table saying, I want to hear your idea, bring forth your idea. Every idea ought to be considered. it's that spirit that now needs to take hold in Congress. The American people don't want to see partisan bickering on this issue. They want to see people come together and solve it once and for all. And I want to thank you, Lee, for being here. Somebody who understands that, somebody who understands the spirit of working together is John McCain, the senator from Arizona. Thanks for coming, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you all for coming today. It's a pleasure to be here to visit our water, and I thank you for the opportunity. Remember, we have so little water in Arizona, the trees chase the dogs, so please send as much as you can. I'm very happy to be with all of you today. Let me just, if I...
We're trying to get
pretty
past
good,
it.
huh? Not bad.
It's the tree and the dog thing that got us. You know, we're trying.
I have more. I think if I could just for a moment mention the President's opening remarks. I travel a lot around the world, usually at your expense. And I came back not long ago from a trip to Afghanistan and Iraq. And I briefly like to mention this. I know that the subject is Social Security, but I want to tell you the pride we can take in the leadership of this man. In Afghanistan,
Thank you, John.
you didn't let me finish. In Afghanistan, not long ago, if a woman showed an ankle, she was taken into the soccer stadium in Kabul and shot in the head or hung from the goalpost. Now women are all over the government. They are starting businesses. They're receiving education. This is a marvelous experiment in democracy and freedom in Afghanistan. In Iraq, my friends, we have changed the dynamic. The dynamic before the election was insurgents against U.S. The dynamic today is insurgents against their own government. No insurgency wins that way. I am convinced that the service and sacrifice of these brave young Americans we have is a noble cause, and someday those people soon will be able to govern themselves and enjoy the freedom and democracy. But it's spreading around the world, my friends, in Ukraine, in Georgia. There's a little country called Kyrgyzstan. You know what they're doing today? They're demonstrating because they didn't have a free and fair election. Because young people, thanks to the internet and thanks to our leadership and thanks to the visionary inaugural address of this president, has authenticated that all men and women are created equal and endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights. My friends, the winds of democracy and change are sweeping Europe and the world, and some of our European friends are on the wrong side of history. And this is a great dawning of a great day for freedom and democracy throughout the world. And Mr. President, you've left a wonderful legacy for future generations of people all over the world. By the way, we had the great pleasure of flying up here with two of your great congressmen, Congressman Beaupre and Congressman Joel Heffley, and they do a great job, and we're proud of the job.
All they wanted was a free flight. It's a nice airplane. I'm glad you got to fly on it.
I didn't even ask them for any water. My friends, the question is not whether Social Security is going to go broke. The question is when. Everyone, opponent, supporter, those who think that we're making a mistake by trying to address this issue cannot disagree with that fundamental fact. It's right there. And we have to join together and address this problem. The President mentioned Senator Moynihan. Senator Moynihan epitomized to me what happened in 1983 when Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill stood together. And yes, they didn't save Social Security for 75 years, but they displayed a spirit which unfortunately is very lacking in our nation's capital today. The willingness to join together in a bipartisan fashion, sit down and work out these issues. We've got to do that on Social Security because we owe it to this group of young people. You see the young people? Would you mind standing up, my little young people? Yeah, just stand up there for a minute. Would you please? Yes, thank you. Those are the ones. Those are the ones we need to do this for, my dear friends. Now you may sit down. Thank you. Go get a drink of water. I want to, and you know, we find this reluctance to even to come to the table. We have a number of members of Congress and the Senate who have put forth very good proposals. We have a number of ideas out there that demand our attention. Some of them good, maybe some of them not so good. But we've started the debate, and yet we find that the opponents will not sit down with us. I would ask everyone in this room to urge our elected representatives to do what has been the history of this country. When issues transcend party identification, then we have to sit down together and work it out together. And this issue certainly transcends any party identification or any party loyalty. We have to do it for these young people. Let me just also say, in a little straight talk to my friends at the AARP, my dear friends at the AARP, if you don't like our solution, give us one. I understand. I understand you're the age of the 35 million members of AARP. Those 35 million members also understand they have an obligation to these young people as well. Sit down and join us in this debate. Don't block it. Could I finally mention one other aspect of the personal savings accounts? My friends, personal savings accounts aren't the answer, but they are the link to the future. All of us members of Congress and federal employees are allowed to join into a program that allows us to invest part of our paychecks into one of 5 different investments. Do you know what they've paid in the last 22 years? Somewhere between 6 and 9% interest. That's one heck of a lot better deal than the 1.8% that it gets from the Treasury investment. So, my friends, it's a link to the future. It's a way for us to allow these young people to enjoy a far more comfortable retirement. Mr. President, we're going to win this issue because it's a right issue, and it's a right thing for America. And our job, all of us who care about future generations of Americans, are committed to it. Let's join together and solve it. I thank you,
Good job, John. Thanks. Yeah. Ready, Norm? Ready? All right. Norm Massoni.
Well, thank you, Mr.
Glad you're here, Norm. Where do you live?
I live in Louisville, Colorado.
Louisville, Colorado.
I was born and raised there, and I'm still there.
Really? You were born in Louisville how many years ago, if I might ask?
Well, not many. Back in 1919 somewhere.
1919?
Yeah.
That's a long time ago. You get a Social Security check, you qualify.
Absolutely, and actually, Mr. President, it is a kind of a significant part of my retirement program, along with the other things that I was fortunate enough to be aware of and prepare for, so that it is not a full pension program. It's a cushion.
Right.
You've got to have something else, but yes.
But you're counting on it.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of people like Norm counting on their check, and I understand that. John understands that. Members of Congress understand that. Social Security is important for a lot of people. And as this debate goes on, I want the people who depend upon Social Security to understand you're going to get your check. Is that I hope you understand that, Norm.
Oh, I absolutely understand it.
Good. Because if you didn't understand it, then I'm not making myself clear. And I'm going to keep making myself clear until people, the seniors of this country, can relax about this debate. Keep going. You're on a roll.
Well, my main concerns is not really for the seniors like myself that were born prior to 1950, because what's there is there, and we're going to get it.
That's right.
Okay. The main concern, and it's a hard act to follow, Mr. President, is exactly what you said. It's for the youth of America. It's for my children and my grandchildren and everybody else's children and grandchildren. It's exactly what you said, to be able to take some of the monies that they're taking out of their paychecks to put into the Social Security program and take it out, diversify it and take it out and put it into a personal savings account. That's going to be, they're going to be able to control that themselves. They're going to be able to own it It will be theirs. Nobody can take it away, not even the United States government.
There you go.
Okay?
I appreciate the spirit. He's concerned about his grandchildren enough that he invited his granddaughter, Jolene. This is a generational issue, folks. The generation of Norm and my generation, we don't have anything to worry about. But there's a lot of grandparents who, once they understand that, start saying to the Congress and the President, how are you going to protect my granddaughter? What are you going to do about my children? What are you going to do about my grandchildren? And that's what this issue, this is a generational issue. This is an issue that recognizes the importance of this generation understands the importance of Social Security, but we also understand we better do something about it for the generation coming up. Jolene, thanks for coming, 21 years old, sitting right here with the President and the Senator, right on the stage.
Thank you, sir.
You are a student where?
I'm a student at the University of Colorado, a
Good.
junior studying political science.
Good, yeah. Well, this is a little political science exercise right now.
Yes, sir.
This is called taking the message to the people. Because I believe the people will influence the outcome of this debate. Here's your chance to influence the outcome of the debate.
Well, I'm here because I'm currently writing a research paper about Social Security reform. And I think the more I learn about it, the more concerned I am that Social Security isn't a viable option for my retirement or my generation's retirement, and that true reform is really necessary so that we have some security in the Social Security program for our generation, and that personal accounts offer some ownership over my own money that I can take care of, kind of incentivize savings for younger Americans so that they are aware of their retirement and can start thinking about it early, and let compound interest work for us in our accounts to help us have a safe and prosperous retirement.
Right. Well spoken. Somebody told me about a survey once that said 20-year-old Americans believe they're more likely to see a UFO than get a check. It's an interesting dynamic, isn't it? Think about the political dynamic there. Once seniors realize nothing's going to change for them, 20, 30, 40-year-old Americans are going to have an enormous say in this debate. You need to say loud and clear, we got a problem. Do you have the political will to fix it for me? And I appreciate the idea. I tell you another interesting thing. I know when McCain and I were coming up, we weren't talking about personal accounts or investing our own money, but there is an interesting culture in America. There's a 401k culture. There's a group of people who are now used to managing their own money. There's a lot of personal involvement in the marketplace from people of all walks in life. We're not trying to invent something new. We're trying to take what has become a reality and extend it to a government program. It seems like to me that 401ks are working. A lot of people like them. A lot of people are comfortable with them. Why don't we take that same concept about giving workers the option of taking some of their own money and investing it in the market, so as John said, they can get a better rate of return on their own money. It's not the government's money to begin with. So thanks. I appreciate that very much. Speaking about 401ks or 403bs, which is the 401k equivalent for the nonprofits. Isn't that right, Tricia? Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Tell everybody what happened 3 weeks ago.
My husband Chris and I just had our first daughter, Morgan.
Very good, yeah.
She's 3 weeks today.
She's here.
She is here waiting to meet you.
Good, looking forward to seeing Morgan. Oh, there's Morgan, look at her. Oh, yeah. Tell Morgan not to worry, reform is on the way. Go ahead, Trish.
Well, my concern with Social Security under the current system is that while my husband and I have been preparing, early for retirement, we've been maximizing what we've put in our 401k and our 403bs and IRAs, mostly because under the current system, we don't anticipate ever seeing a dime that we've been paying into the system, and will continue to pay into the system for several more years.
See, that's an interesting thought. People need to listen. People in Congress need to listen. I know a lot of young Americans aren't supposed to be paying attention to politics, they say, but they are. They're beginning to understand that this is going to be a problem for generations to come unless we do something.
Absolutely.
Are you, tell 403b, which you invest in, I mean, some are probably worried about, do I have the capacity to invest? You know, there's this concept of investor class in America, which means only a certain person is, is capable. It's kind of an interesting point of view. I frankly disagree with that. I totally reject that point of view. But in order to assure people, I mean, when you start looking at investment options, have you found it to be, rocket science or, something difficult?
No, not at all. And, same thing as with what you're talking about. We have choices. You can't just go out and dump all your money in the hottest tech stock. You've got a certain number of limited choices that it's not going to disappear tomorrow.
Yeah. And you get quarterly statements?
Absolutely.
Yeah, see, I think that would be a wonderful way to encourage people to pay attention to their government, is to open your quarterly statement and say, look at this, look at my assets. They don't seem to be going up so much. Maybe we ought to change, presidents or something, or senators, whatever the case may be. This will be the first time a president has kissed her. Looking forward to it. I don't know if she is or not, but I am. Our final panelist is Randy Reed, one of the baby boomers. Randy and I'm 58, you're 56?
Yes, Mr. President.
Yeah, I'm on the leading edge of the baby boomers. As a matter of fact, interestingly enough, my retirement age comes in 2008. Isn't that convenient? Yeah. Back to the trees and the dogs, right, man? What do you do, Randy?
Mr. President, I have a custom picture frame store in Greenwood Village, Colorado.
Your own business?
Yes, sir. I own my own business with my wife.
Classic. She's the boss, and you're the...
I just follow instructions.
That's good. Well, started your own business, own your own business. Classic American story, isn't it? Making a living?
Yes, sir.
That's good. Why are you concerned besides... you were born before 1950.
I was born, yes, Mr. President, I was born before 1950.
You're in good shape. Don't worry about it.
I'm good shape.
Get your check.
I'm not, my concern is not for myself in that the Social Security retirement. My concern, of course, is for my children and for my employees in the company, the associates that I work with. As you well know, we pay the payroll, the security taxes for them. We match those funds for them. I certainly don't want to see increases in that tax. That's not good for small business and all like that. I'm very happy to see the personal retirement account that is proposed here. I think that's a great thing to help the young people typically the people who work for me are younger people, and I think it'll allow them a way to take ownership of their own personal retirement funds there. I'm also happy to see that these funds are going to go into secure and safe investments for them, like you said earlier, that it won't be going into the lottery or whatever like that. It's wonderful that they also, in all the years that they'll be earning these funds, that they'll be able to pass this on to their survivors and as they see fit.
You know, I hear from a lot of small businesses, and they obviously take great comfort in knowing that at least we're addressing the issue, trying to solve the problem. Can you imagine being a small business like Randy's who puts a lot of money into the payroll tax, pays a lot of payroll tax, the company portion of payroll taxes, thinking that, well, maybe there won't be a system for the people that I'm contributing toward. And so one of the things that'll help the entrepreneurial spirit, at least help the small businesses to know that we've got the courage to come together to reform the system so that your contributions will work.
Absolutely.
In other words, that's what they'll do what they're intended to do. And part of the payroll tax, the personal accounts coming out of the payroll tax will obviously be a part of what he's contributing to the half of the workers' payroll tax. And so this is a big issue for small businesses, folks. I mean, this is a very important part of making sure that the small business sector remains strong. That we've got to solve this problem now. You got anything else to add? Any wisdom? Want to sell a product or two? You got a chance here.
Yes, but what I would like to say, though, Mr. President, is that I'm not looking for a Band-Aid effect to this. I'd like to see a permanent fix for this Social Security Administration.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I think coming to the table, when we get people to the table, we're talking permanent. I think that's the spirit of the Congress, don't you, John? Yeah. Listen, I hope you've enjoyed this as much as I have. I want to tell you something. You can influence the outcome of this debate. People here in the audience and people watching on TV can decide whether or not Congress hears the call. Here's the call that Senator McCain issued. Here's the call that I've issued. Here's the call that the panelists have issued, which is, look, we're concerned. We have a problem. Show us that you're capable of coming together to solve the problem. My strategy is simple. I'm going to continue to travel this country, making it abundantly clear the nature of the problem, assuring seniors that they have nothing to worry about, because I understand once that sinks in, once people know we have a problem and seniors have nothing to worry about, the question from the people were going to be, what you going to do to fix it? And I'm more than willing to come to the table and listen to ideas. Today we discussed some interesting ideas that'll help make the Social Security system work better for the individual, or as John said, will help make the system connect to a young generation. I hope, I'm confident that eventually the will be there to get something done. I appreciate so much, Senator, your willingness to join in this issue. I love the spirit of somebody saying, we're not going to pass this on. Now's the time to confront the problem. Now's the time to do our duty as elected officials. Thank you for your interest in the subject. May God bless you all, and may God continue to bless our country.